Hello everybody and welcome to Bird's Nest Designs. My name is Denise Cox and I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Canada. And today I am really excited to be sharing with you this beautiful card featuring the Hello Harvest bundle. This is the stamps that I'm featuring for my August Stamp of the Month Club. So everybody's going to get the stamp in their kit along with 3 make and takes. Today I'm doing the video for one of the cards in that kit. So if you're stamping along with me as a member, then you're going to already have all of your supplies pre-cut ready to go for you in your make and take envelope. If you're just watching along and you're not a member, then I'll give the dimensions as I go. They'll also be in the description of today's YouTube video. And if you're interested and you live in Canada and you'd like to be a member of my Stamp of the Month Club, head on over to createwithbirdsnest.ca and all the information is there. So, as I mentioned, this is the card we're going to create. I love the gold accents and the foil, and this is a beautiful card with fall just around the corner. So I'm loving the images in the Hello Harvest. I'm a huge fan of sunflowers, so that of course caught my eye, and I always love the feeling of fall. September is always like a brand new start for me. It just feels like a reboot, and so fall is one of my favorite times to be crafting. So let me share this card with you as we go today. So first things first, let's see what's in our little kit here. So we're starting with a soft sea foam card base. So this is just a standard card base that measures 8.5 by 5.5, and I've gone ahead and scored it at 4.25 right in the center. So we're gonna go ahead and fold that card, and then with your bone folder, we're just gonna give that a nice crisp fold and make that a really good crease. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create the stamped images on that card front. So to do that, I'm going to use this pretty leaf stamp from the Hello Harvest, and I'm going to stamp using my soft sea foam. So we're using soft sea foam ink on the same colored cardstock, and just going to randomly stamp this, and we don't need them stamped in the center because our main feature here is going to cover that. So I'm flipping my stamp so that it does look random. Leaves never fall in the same pattern all at once, so I'm making it look random by switching it around, stamping it off onto my stamp paper so that it's not full images, and just having fun with ink and paper. Okay. So that's all I'm going to do with that one. I'll close up that ink pad for now. So this card features some watercoloring using the Watercolor Pencils and a blender pen. And we're using it on shimmer white paper. So it's a really fun technique. I love the shimmer, which you probably can't see here on the camera, but the pumpkin and the sunflowers are stamped on shimmer white paper. So that gives it just some built-in sparkle, which is awesome. Okay, back to the card. So there's our card front started. I've got an insert here. So I'm using Very Vanilla, and this is 4 inches by 5.25. Before, I should not have put that ink pad away because I always like to create a little bit of interest in the inside of my card. Even if it doesn't have a sentiment, I like to kind of tie the front and the inside together. So to do that on this card, I'm simply going to stamp 3 leaves just in the corner like that, and now I really can put that ink pad away. So let's go ahead and adhere that. I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal, and I just put a new one in, so let's make sure it's started. So just going to adhere that into the inside of my card. All right, so now that's done. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some gold foil. This is going to look a little interesting, but I'll tell you what I've done here. So this gold foil measures 3.25 by 5.25. And as you can see, I'm going to cover it up with this and just have the outer edge. So knowing that I had to cut these vines out of the gold foil as well for my card design, I decided to utilize the paper instead of just covering it up. And I've got these die cut already out of the center. So I'm gonna pop them out. So if you're a member of my club, yours will look like that. Don't worry, nobody's gonna be the wiser. We're just gonna pop those vines out. And then over top of our foil paper, my whole mat's moving here, we're going to adhere a piece of Very Vanilla, which is 3 inches by 5 inches. And I've gone ahead and embossed that for you with the stitched greenery die. If you haven't seen that one, look how pretty it is. I love it. It's a nice subtle background. And the die does exactly that. It just makes that nice stitched greenery in the back. So that is going to get adhered over top of our gold, which is why those cutouts is a clever way to save paper. So rather than having to use another scrap, we're just using the center of what we're already using. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna just try and get the border all around even. There, see? Nobody knows the difference. And then that can get attached to the front of our card, like so. So I'm going to, once again, I'm just attaching this to the front using my Stampin' Seal. You can use whatever adhesive is your go-to. So whether, depends on the day and what's closest to hand, to be honest, whether I use multi-purpose glue or the Stampin' Seal. So there is the start of our card. The next thing I want to do is stamp our greeting. So you are such a blessing. So I've got a little piece here of soft seafoam, which measures 3/4 of an inch wide by 2 3/4. And we're going to use, for that, we're going to use StazOn. And the reason I'm using StazOn, most of my videos I do use Memento, but I'm using StazOn because we're using our watercolor pencils with our blend pens, so I'm just keeping it consistent throughout. We're going to stamp the "You Are a Blessing," making sure it's good and inky. And I'm just going to stamp that to the right side edge. Perfect. Okay, so stamp it aside, and then this can get adhered right onto this card base like so. So far we haven't used any dimensionals, we're just using our standard adhesive, making it about 1/8 of an inch on the edge here. That was quite... Okay, now this front can get set aside while we do some stamping, coloring, and die cutting. So I've still got my vines just tucked away over here. And then we need a piece of shimmer paper, and this measures 2 3/4 by 5.5. And the size is really irrelevant as long as you can stamp your sunflowers and your pumpkin onto it. And as I mentioned, you do need to have StazOn ink because we are using the watercolor pencils with the blender pen. The StazOn pad is a different type of pad. It's the linen pad, different than the classic ink pads. So I like to ink it upside down. Number one, it's smaller, and just to make sure it's nice, even coverage there. So I stamp the pumpkin. I always with StazOn like to just hold it there in place a little bit longer to make sure the ink transfers really well. And then we'll take our sunflowers and we're gonna do the same thing. So we're gonna ink that up. And you'll notice when I'm inking that I'm sort of giving it a little bit of a twist. And then just sort of dabbing it to make sure it's all nicely covered. And we can stamp that here, hold it for a few extra seconds. Awesome. Okay. So now that we have those ready to go, I am going to die cut them. And the reason I'm going to die cut them before I stamp is because if something is to go wrong, like they move or the dies move and cut it out wrong, I don't want to have to go through all the effort of coloring just to find out I have to redo it. So let's go ahead and die cut them first. I'm just going to get up quickly here and grab my little Post-it notes. I always have those close by. They were just on the other shelf because we don't have the magnetic platform. And so I just like to put the dies. So these are from the Harvest dies, which you can get bundled with, or sorry, not the Harvest dies, the Rustic Pumpkin dies right here. So these are these beautiful dies. And they come bundled with the Hello Harvest if you choose. So go ahead. And that jingling you hear in the background is one of my puppies waking up and shaking at their new collars. So we're going to go ahead and just stick the Post-it note over, and that's going to hold it in place. As long as you're capturing the paper on either side over the die, your Post-it note should, for the most part, keep it where it needs to stay. Okay. So I'm just going to pause this video real quick while I run it through the die cutting machine so that you don't get seasick with all the motion. So give me 1 minute, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. You missed all that motion as I used my mini Boss machine. Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine is quite the mouthful, so I've now termed it just my mini Boss or my Boss machine. So when you hear me refer to that, that's what I'm talking about. So let's peel off these Post-it notes and the dies, and then we're left with our beautiful die cuts. And now we can go ahead and color them. Okay, so here's the watercolor pencils. Now I have both sets in here, and this is just a clear stamp case. And I did find this online that I was able to print it out, and I'm sorry I don't remember where I found it. But there it is. And then inside here I cut out this off of the box that the second set came in. So I have all the colors in here. So for this card, we're going to need Old Olive, which is right here, Daffodil Delight here, Soft Suede, and the markers do have, I'm just trying to find, oh, here it is here. So the the watercolor pencils do have the name right on here, but that is not Soft Suede either. Everly Espresso. Okay, well, we'll get to that in a minute. Cajun Craze, which I just had here. And Pumpkin Pie, which I've already pulled out. So I'm just missing my Soft Suede. And perhaps I just wrote down the wrong coloring. I'm thinking it may have been Fresh Curry that I used. Okay, regardless, let's get going. So I'm going to start with the pumpkin because it's a bigger image. It's going to be easier to share what I'm doing here with you. So I want to shade my pumpkin, and so I'm going to start with a darker color. So Cajun Craze, and these are very similar to like using a pencil crayon when you were younger or even now, in the fact that you just give it a little bit of pressure and you're just getting these colors right here. I'm not coloring the whole pumpkin, and you'll see why. I'm just sort of tracing over some of the lines that are already in the stamped image. I'm trying not to make the camera move as I do this. So we're just kind of, you know, like this. This is such a fun coloring technique. And when the Stampin' Blends came out and they stole my heart because I absolutely love them, I kind of put all these other coloring techniques off for a while because I was just so enjoying the blends. But when I bring these back out, I really remember how awesome they are. So I'm just adding a bit now of Pumpkin Pie in here. Okay, and again, I'm not coloring the whole image, just adding in a bit of color. And you can make this your own, put the colors wherever you choose. Okay, now here's where the magic comes in. So in the catalog, you can buy blender pens. They do come in a set of 3. So they come in a little case like this. And inside you've got 3 wonderful markers. And they're double-sided. So they've got 2 tips on them. Okay. And what's wonderful about these, well, let's just use this one, is they're clear. So when I do that, nothing, right? But they are moist. If you put it to your finger, you can feel that. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to start coloring and see how it's going to just drag this watercolor. We're going to color these in just like we would on a watercolor. Okay. And you can do circular motion, and as if the color isn't coming quite how you want it, then just go back up and grab more color from those original lines that you colored in. And again, this is on shimmer paper, so it's a slightly different thickness. It's a different texture than our basic white, and it doesn't pill as much, so your paper's not going to get all those little pills on them. Okay, now if the color was to get too dark, which in this case I'm not finding that, but if it was, then you could just go like here on your scratch paper, get some of that color off, and then come back in and start anew with getting the other colors. And so there we have our beautiful, just giving a little bit more color in here, watercolored pumpkin. Now, if you weren't happy with this for whatever reason, you can always come in, give it a minute or so to dry, and then just come in and add some more color and then go over it again. But I'm really happy with how that's turned out. I think it's a beautiful watercolored pumpkin. It's got the different shadings, the different colors. And then I'm going to come in with my old olive and just do the same up here on the stem. Now, I'm using the same marker. It's still got the orange tip. I'm just going to run it off over here until it's clear, and then I can come in and use it on my green. So you don't have to worry about having a bunch of different markers for different colors. And then when you're done with the green, just do the same thing till it's clear. Put the lid on, and it's good to go for the next time. Now the tip will get stained, but as long as it's coming out clear on your paper, then you're good to go. So there's our pumpkin. And now we're going to use our sunflowers. And I'm just curious why I don't have that is not the color I used. So I'm gonna just grab my early espresso marker. And perhaps I just wrote that down wrong because there actually isn't a soft suede marker at all. So obviously I just wrote it down wrong. We're using early espresso. All right, so to get these sunflowers, I'm going to take my Daffodil Delight, and same thing we did earlier on the pumpkin. I'm just gonna color in along the edge of the sunflower, all three of them. And the more color you put in with the marker or with your watercolor pencils, the brighter and more vibrant the color will be because you have more to drag across with your blender pens. Okay, so there's the yellow. And then blender pen, again, just double checking I've cleaned it off. And we can come in and blend that yellow, the Daffodil Delight. Wonderful. It's coming out. I love. And again, it's watercoloring. So if you get outside the lines, it really is, it doesn't matter at all. It just adds to the effect. So don't concern yourself if you get outside of the out of the lines. Okay, now I'm going to just take the yellow off. And I'm going to come in with my early espresso. And this should probably be sharpened, this one here. And you can just sharpen them with a regular pencil sharpener. But I'm just added some color to the inside of my sunflowers. And then coloring that. Okay, and if you want, go around the outside edge of the yellow a bit, and it just sort of blends that brown and yellow together. I'm also going to color these little flowers here into yellow as well. So there's one there. There's one there. Okay. Oh. Now with our old olive, we can come in and just add some color to these leaves. And just, like I said, I'm not really all that concerned about going outside of the lines. Just getting a wee bit of color in all of these. It's a little trickier when the images are smaller like that. But the technique works so nicely, and like I mentioned before, it's watercolor, so if you get outside of the lines, it just sort of adds to that coloring. And this just really blends so nicely together. And a couple more over here. There. Oh, I forgot these ones down here. Okay, clean it off for next time. And there we've got our images all beautifully colored. And I don't know, like I mentioned before, I don't know if you can see that beautiful sparkle that's built into the shimmer paper, but it has some really nice glitter to it. All right, so the last thing we want to do is attach our pumpkin and our sunflowers, like so. And I'm gonna do that using Stamping Dimensionals. So, oh, I've got a brand new pack. That does not, I love when it's new. And how I start them is I always just fold it like this so that I can easily grab some from the center, and then it makes it easy to access the rest of them. So I'm just gonna put 4 on the back of my pumpkin. And then we can attach that on here. And again, I'm going to put dimensionals on my sunflowers. And so I'm strategically kind of putting them in this area because I want them to be bumped over top of the pumpkin. And so I do want them to, the dimensionals to stick to the pumpkin itself. Okay, I want the stem to kind of peek out the top there, and there we have it. So the last thing is to adhere our golden vines here. And to do that, you can use either what I call the fussy glue. Let me just grab that to show you. So I call this fussy glue, the fine tip glue pen. So you can use that. I just am more comfortable using the multi-purpose glue, so that's what I tend to go towards. And then we're just going to take these and put a wee bit of glue. Oh, of course it's not going to come out. There we go. It's just a little tiny bit. With this glue, what I love about it is it dries really fast and you don't need very much. So I'm just going to sort of tuck this in my sunflowers there. And I'm not worried about this sticking because it's going to stick there and that's going to be enough to hold it in place. And so I'll do the same thing with the other two. Just a wee bit of glue. Now, if I thought about this ahead of time, I would have put them on adhesive sheets and then you would just peel them off and they would stick. The only thing that would do it would make them stick down completely and you wouldn't have this fun little dimension there. So again, perhaps just using this little bit of glue is the better option depending on what look you're going for. Ooh, I just heard a really big thunder here. We must be having a thunderstorm. And there we have it. There is our beautiful card featuring the blending watercolors, the blender pens. We've used so many amazing Stampin' Up products. We've got the stitched greenery die here. We've got the rustic pumpkin dies, the Hello Harvest bundle. Just lots of fun on this card, and I love the way it's turned out with the golden sparkle, and it's perfect for autumn. So thank you so much for watching along today and crafting with me here at Bird's Nest Designs. Please, if you've liked this video, leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. And if you'd like to purchase Stampin' Up products from me from anywhere in Canada, you can head on over to createwithbirdsnest.ca, and all of the links are there to make it really easy for you. Again, thanks so much and happy stamping!